We all have two different versions of ourselves. There's the real you, and then there's the online you. Today, we're going to talk about the space between them and what it's really doing to us. I mean, really think about it for a second. Have you ever posted a picture and thought, wait, is that really me? Or maybe you've scrolled through your own profile and it feels like you're looking at a stranger's perfect life. If you've ever felt that, you are definitely not the only one. So let's dive into this. Let's really explore that space between the real you and the you that you post. And as you'll see, that gap, it's usually a lot bigger than we think. Okay, so on one side, you've got your real self. The messy room, the complicated feelings, the totally normal days where nothing exciting happens. But then there's your online self, which is more like a gallery of perfect smiles, incredible vacations, and only the best highlights. We're all basically showing the world our greatest hits all the time. There's actually a name for this. It's called false self-presentation. And the best way to get it is to think of it like a movie trailer, right? A trailer only shows you the most exciting, the funniest, the most action-packed scenes to make you want to buy a ticket. It never shows the slow parts. And that's pretty much exactly what we're all doing with our lives online. And here's where the problem creeps in. This creates this gap between our real, messy, everyday self and this perfect online version that we feel like we're supposed to be. And that little gap can create a lot of anxiety, making us feel like we're failing to live up to the person we're pretending to be online. So let's move on to the next part of the story, because this is where it really builds. Because when we're all busy showing off our perfect little movie trailers, what happens when we start watching everybody else's? Well, it starts to feel like a competition. This is something called social comparison. And look, it is a completely normal human thing to do. We are literally wired to look at other people to kind of figure out how we're doing. The only problem is social media puts that natural instinct into total overdrive. We're not just doing it once in a while, we're doing it hundreds of times a day. And it usually goes something like this. Step 1, you're scrolling, and you see a friend's perfect vacation photo. Step 2, you look up from your phone and see your own, messy living room. And then step 3, you feel that little pang in your stomach, that feeling of sadness or jealousy or just feeling kind of less than. There's this quote that just nails it perfectly. We are constantly comparing our behind-the-scenes footage, our real, complicated lives, to everyone else's highlight reel. Of course, we're going to feel like we're losing when we're comparing those two things. It's not a fair fight. Now, you might be thinking this is all just happening in your head, but there's another player in this whole game that you can't even see. It's the code. It's the algorithm behind the apps we use every single day. See, that algorithm, it has one very, very simple job. Keep your eyes glued to the screen for as long as possible. That's it. It doesn't care if you feel happy or sad. It just wants you to keep scrolling. So what is it trying to capture? Well, 3 things, really. It wants your time. It wants your attention. And the best way to get both of those is to grab hold of your strong feelings. So the code learns. It starts to figure out that if it shows you something that makes you feel a big emotion, doesn't matter if it's joy or anger or envy, you're way more likely to stop and look. So it keeps feeding you more and more of that stuff because it works. It keeps you hooked. So when you put all of this together, the two U's, the comparison game, this algorithm poking at your emotions, it can feel like a lot. And it's really no wonder that we start looking around for some comfort, for some connection. And that leads us right here. In the middle of all this digital noise, a lot of people have started searching for something a little deeper, maybe a little bit of peace, and they're finding it in some pretty unexpected corners of the internet. Especially over the last few years, when things felt so uncertain, there was this huge wave of people turning to spirituality online. They were looking for answers, for meaning, and for a way to feel connected when we were all so far apart. And when I say this was a huge trend, I mean, it is massive. Just on TikTok, the hashtag manifestation, which is the idea that you can basically think your dreams into reality, has over 12 billion views. That's billion with a B. And it's not just manifestation, it's the whole universe of this stuff. You've got people scrolling through daily tarot readings, learning about their astrology charts, watching videos with healing sounds that promise to fix your energy. It's everywhere. And finding a little comfort in these things can feel really good in the moment, but it does lead to a pretty important question. Is watching a quick fix video the same as doing the real and sometimes really difficult work of healing? And that brings us to our final section. Let's talk about this idea of the spiritual shortcut and why just focusing on good vibes only might mean you're missing a really important part of the story. The key idea here is called spiritual bypass. And what it means is it's when we use these spiritual ideas or practices to kind of go around our real messy human feelings. It's about avoiding the tough stuff instead of actually working through it. The easiest way to understand it is like this. Spiritual bypassing is like spraying a bunch of air freshener in a room to cover up the smell of a full trash can. Sure, it smells better for a minute, but you haven't actually solved the problem. The trash is still sitting there. So what does this actually look like? Well, it can be forcing yourself to be positive when what you really feel is sad. It could be ignoring so-called bad emotions like anger. Or it could be believing that just manifesting a new life is going to fix everything without you having to do any of the hard work yourself. So what's the big takeaway from all this? The online world, it's kind of a game with its own set of rules. We create these online selves, we compare them to others, and the algorithms are built to push our emotional buttons. But you're not powerless here. Just understanding how it all works, just seeing the game for what it is, that's the first step to choosing how you want to play it. And that's a really powerful place to start.